All right, guys, welcome to another CyberSec Tuesday, where information security community that meets here in space. We'll have to work on that one in the future. We meet every Tuesday night here at 6 p.m. Pacific time on this Discord server, and you can join us at no44.org/join. Do a quick shout out to our sponsor, ArcLight 6 Consulting. They deliver risk-based, security-first engineering solutions that protect your systems from the ground up. If you guys are interested in checking them out for consulting anywhere from software development, compliance, or any sort of cybersecurity needs, hit them up at arclight6.com. And I will be kicking off a talk tonight on surviving Defcon. This is my annual Defcon survival guide that we do, kind of like prep talk. And we're going to keep things open for them, keep it kind of loose and quick on here. So if you guys have anything you guys want to bring up, feel free to shout it out. This is my guide from the last 7 years of attending Defcon. Just some wisdom that I gained over the years, and I would love to hear from you guys as well too. You guys, DEF CON is not been canceled, so if you've heard the news, don't worry. You guys are in luck this year. So DEF CON this year, this is gonna be going on August 7th through the 10th. So that's gonna be Thursday through Sunday, or I think it officially starts Friday. We always get there Thursday. Badge pickup starts on Thursday. A lot of the talks don't really start typically until Friday. But this year, I have a typo here. It's supposed to be DC33. But yeah, every year it's got a theme. This one is access everywhere. Imagine that we're building digital commons from scratch. What can we do to make sure everyone benefits? And how would we make it freer, healthier place to inhabit? How do you protect each other from the worst parts of the current system? The services should be usable no matter who you are. Services should be accessible no matter where you are. And services should not violate user privacy or security. Every year, like I mentioned, DEF CON's got a theme. This is theirs. And if you want to learn more about it, they actually have a whole theme guide that goes into more about what they're going to be really pushing this year at DEF CON. So, DEF CON's held every year in Vegas in the Mojave Desert. It is super hot. It's one of the hottest deserts in all of America. It can be, super hot, 112, that's like the high for that weekend, but sometimes Vegas can get all the way up to like 120. And it could be super hot, dry, and then 20 minutes later it could literally be like flooding. It's the weather there changes just drastically. Most years, typically in August, it's monsoon season in Vegas. And we've experienced floods. We've experienced crazy lightning storms, just crazy heat. You name it. There's also been many plague-like events like locusts taking over the city and things like that. So it's pretty nuts. It's hot in the day and it's hot at night. So one thing to kind of keep informed about. And that kind of one thing to keep in mind is this year, like last year, DEF CON's going to be held at the Las Vegas Convention Center, also known as LVCC. And somebody online, I forgot who I got this from. I think it was Deviant Ollam. He shared this, I believe, from his YouTube video last year on what the walking distance is to the West Hall, where the con's going to be held at. So this gives you kind of a guide. I think he went and he walked from all these hotels to the convention center and timed them all. So there is a tram that takes you along the east side of the strip from, I think, all the way down to MGM, all the way north to just past Sahara. I forget what the last hotel is up there. But so there is a tram stop near the convention center, but after you once you get off the tram, it's about a 10-ish, 15-minute walk to the con. There are the Tesla like Hyperloop tunnels that you can take too, but that doesn't save you too much time. So just be aware. You'll be walking pretty much in no shade in the direct sun. So things to be aware of. Things to have on hand. This is kind of like at least my list, and I've added a couple things from recommendations and from a few others. At DefCon, the Las Vegas Convention Center is huge, and luckily we're not hotel rooms like it's been in the past. One convention center from what I'm aware of this year, just like it was last year. So the biggest thing is bring the most comfortable shoes you have. If you have brand new shoes, do wear them in before you get started, or before you get to Vegas. That way they're kind of broken in and you're not getting blisters. Also, chapstick. It's hot, it's dry. It's definitely depending on where you're from. If you're from a more humid area and you get to Vegas for the first time out there, it's kind of it's can be eye opening. So lotion might be another thing too if you suffer from dry skin. Tylenol, Advil, that could help out with your feet. It could help out with your hangover. There is a lot of drinking in Vegas and DEF CON as a whole, so just it comes with the territory. Water, earplugs, sweatshirt. That one's a weird one because it's hot as hell in Vegas, but it's hot and super hot outside. But once you get inside, it's really common to be at a talk or in the convention floor and you freeze your ass off because in Vegas the air conditioning is just blasting nonstop. So I always just throw like a lightweight, like long sleeve shirt or sweater in my bag, carry that with me so I don't get cold. Just depends on if you easily get cold. I do. So just something to keep in mind. Cough drops, that's a big one. So I mentioned dry air outside. You have the air conditioning inside. You have a lot of smoke in the air through the casinos. I lose my voice almost every year I'm at DEF CON. I think last year was the first year I didn't lose my voice. And that was thanks to cough drops. Cough drops like really saved my ass. So that's a big one. Also too, if you get sick easily, it might not be a bad idea to bring a mask, a face mask. Like one of the ones you see, ever since COVID, like an N95 or anything like that, because that could help. Con flu is a big thing that goes around every year, where most people come home and they got COVID. I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, but it's extremely common. I think most people I know who have attended have got it at least once. Which I don't have on here. The face mask, do I? No. Important one because there are plenty of hands-on workshops. I know registration was opened and then closed today if you got a chance to do that. But outside of the workshops, there are tons of CTF, capture the flag events. There are just lots of things that are interactive. The badges are usually interactive. I can't remember this year if it's going to be a digital badge or not. It's kind of it's sometimes it's kind of random. I know 2 years ago it was like a non-electrical badge, so I'm hoping we could get like kind of a cool badge this year. So you can usually plug that into your computer and do programming and things like that. So and then a lot of the usual like power strips, battery packs. Cash is a big thing. If you're buying your ticket at the con, I believe it's still cash only. If you want to get your ticket beforehand, you can buy online. It is a little bit more expensive, but it does guarantee you a physical badge and not like some paper temporary badge out if they run out of badges. So things to keep in mind. Travel router, I'll go more into that in a bit, explain like what that is exactly, but short description, it's like a wireless router you can bring with you, and you can connect that to untrusted networks and it acts as a additional layer of protection, like with a firewall built into it and stuff like that. So that's something I bring with me anytime I go traveling, especially to DEF CON, especially when you're around a bunch of hackers and one of the most dangerous networks in the world. And then with that Ethernet cables, and then just do us all a favor, don't forget the deodorant. I'll open up the floor. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, or anything that I might have missed on the at least on the essentials list?
Yeah, I got something.
What was that?
To wear lock. Yeah. So yeah, masks don't work that way. So basically, you know, only wear one if you are sick, because they're meant to prevent you from spreading it. So if you're not sick, man, don't wear a mask. And if you wear one, make sure you're a doctor or a nurse, because otherwise you're not going to know how to use it right. So don't be a mask hole. There you go.
There you go. So yeah, other than that, nice to haves. Bring batteries for the badges. Usually the badges, I mean, every year it's different. They could be, sometimes they'll have lithium ion built into them, like it's been like the last year or two. A lot of times it's like double A's or triple A's, and occasionally it's actually just watch batteries. And usually every store within miles around the conference will sell out of batteries because every hacker hits up those stores and just buys out all the batteries. So something to keep in mind. If you're participating in the lockpicking village, bring some lockpicks. If you don't have any, there will be plenty to buy there. Hand sanitizer. Typically you're interacting with lots of things. You're shaking a lot of hands. Like I said, germs and things spread there pretty fast, and the chances of getting sick afterwards is pretty high. So safety first. Snacks, though there's food everywhere, and I think they have vending machines. They got a food court. They got a great tacos El Gordo down the street in walking distance. Snacks are great, especially if you're in a talk and you get hungry. You have to run out and lose your spot. Sunscreen, it's pretty obvious. I think you're in Vegas, hot sun. Yeah. Eye drops. I'll go through the rest of these pretty fast. Bathing suit. There's tons of pool parties. If you're into that, that's definitely bring a bathing suit. Soldering iron and supplies. This is great if you're actually going to build your own badge. A lot of badges that get handed out at DEF CON. I think I might go over that a little bit about the badges, but sometimes you'll have to solder them yourself. And there is villages like the man. I don't remember the name of the village. Anybody remember the name of the village where you get all the soldering irons? It's not called the soldering iron village, but yeah, there is an area where hardware hacking. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, there's the hardware hacking village where there usually is lots of soldering irons. So if you don't bring one, that's a place you can go. But it's kind of first come first serve, and you're stuck using whatever equipment they have. So something to keep in mind. I've personally don't think I've actually ever used my soldering iron. I've brought it a few times, but just it's whatever you're into. So uh, wired headphones. I usually recommend to folks that are going to DEF CON, try to keep your if you can, keep the radio, as many radios on your phone off as possible. You're going to keep your 5G LTE radio on, just so you can make calls or whatnot, more than likely. The attack surface there is a lot different than, like wireless or Bluetooth. So, and plus, when you're somewhere with a lot of, with a dense population of people, especially if they have Bluetooth devices on, and you have a pair of Bluetooth headphones on, you can actually have interference issues where your music and all that will get like start chopping out and stuff like that. I experienced it recently in when I was in Tokyo in a subway station where like a guy entered the subway station and my headphones weren't working because there's just too many people there with headphones on, and the wireless spectrum is only so broad and you get congestion. So so between that and security reasons, wired headphones I think I always throw that on in my list. A rain jacket, like I mentioned, it can flood out there. So if you're, if you are outside, like I said, if you're trying to get to the con, and it happens to be a monsoon going through and it's flooding and whatnot, it's raining, a rain jacket is going to save the day. And then, last but not least, business cards or any blank cards for swapping contacts. So if that's something you will meet, typically you will meet tons of people out there. Whether you're attending, LineCon or the Toxic Barbecue, or just maybe other No 4 members. Easy way is just write down your contact. That's an option. I don't know if that's stated, but I find it handy at least. Yeah, no, and those that are new to DEFCON, oh yeah, go ahead.
So I just thought of this actually. Yeah, take it from somebody who the only 2 times he ever lost his phone was at hacker conferences, because he was like too drunk. Yeah. So that's gonna happen to you probably. Okay. I don't think it can't. So what I would suggest is get yourself a nice phone case, or maybe your existing phone case, right? You can get like a little add-on thing that you can slip through the little charging hole in the case that has like a metal ring attached to it. And so you can do that, and then get yourself like a little chain or something, and like maybe like a little hook from Home Depot or something. Just chain it onto your belt, and that way you can just stick it in your pocket. But it's literally chained to you, dude. Doesn't matter how drunk you are. Okay, you're not gonna lose your phone. Don't lose your phone at a hacker conference. Okay, don't be
That's a
like
good
me.
idea.
Very good. So do that.
Yeah, no, definitely good call out. So yeah, I was mentioning the crowds. It can be busy at DEF CON. It typically is. I think that now they're at like 60,000+ people every year. So it's where the term line con comes in. You get stuck if you're trying to buy swag. The line can be, honestly, no joke. It could be like many hours. I've heard of people waiting an hour, waiting in the line for several hours to get a T-shirt or whatnot. So, or if you are there getting you're picking up your DEF CON badge, depending on if you pre-ordered it or you bought it paying in cash, or you got there later, like on Friday afternoon or stuff like that, you could be waiting in a long line. So just something to expect. If you're trying to get to a talk, and it's got limited seating, get to the talk maybe a little early so you can make sure you get yourself a spot. I've many times got to a talk and the whole place is booked up and I can't get a seat in there. A lot of times they won't let you stand. A lot of times they won't let you sit on the ground. I don't know if it's going to be strict this year or not, but that's some common things I've seen in the past. Um, Oh my gosh. Just realized I've been streaming, but I have not been showing my screen at all. So, at least on the stream, I'll have to fix that later.
Question. When does
Yeah.
LineCon start?
When does LineCon start? So, for badges, I think people get so badges. I believe you can usually pick up Thursday morning, and some people will get there like Wednesday night, I believe, to wait overnight so they can be first in line. That's
Which you
from
don't
what
have to
I've
do.
heard. You don't have to do it. Yeah, no, definitely don't. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be that person.
You'll still get your badge with everybody else. It's like it doesn't matter. You just get to go get your merch first, which is why I think people do it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you get in there sooner than later, then you can run it, make a run for the merch line before it gets crazy. The merch line, last year they started a new system where you can kind of like pre-select your merch, and then when you got to the front, you could show them. I think it was a QR code, and they would like immediately grab your merch for you, and it was just a way for them to expedite getting you out the door. So, but the line for merch last year, still with that system, was like, I think it was like almost half a mile long. It was insane. So yeah, one thing about merch too is if you can't get merch, you don't want to wait in line, or there's a couple of approaches you can take. You can take my approach, where I usually ask somebody who's already in line to buy merch for me, because there's really no limit to how much merch you can buy. So you got one guy who's going to wait in line, and he just is very determined. Some folks would just give those people like a list of things for them to pick up. Also, a lot of things will end up on the DEFCON store after the event. I bought swag off eBay from DEFCON and like third parties as well. So if you can't get something there, don't sweat it. You can usually find it afterwards. Kind of going back to the DEFCON, and I'll go more into that travel router in a bit, but there used to be a thing called a wall sheep. Well, I think it's still there, but it used to be like a lot more. It used to be like worse. Would actually like show. I think back in the day would actually show your passwords, right? Wearlock, was that the case originally?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think over the years they've got nicer, where they like didn't expose your password, but they'd show part of it. This is an example of the wall sheep I have in this slide. And it would show like the person login, like back in the day when websites weren't really encrypted and everything was just HTTP. Things were in clear text, and what they would do is they would sniff. The people that ran the wall of sheep, which I think I believe it's always been a village, maybe not. But they would have people sniffing the network, and then they would dump any credentials they found and put it right on the screen. It's kind of like a wall of shame. So it's changed and evolved throughout the years. I don't think they don't show as much as they used to, in regards to like shaming people. But
It's very politically correct in a corporate sense, now that they're like not exposing passwords.
oh yeah, yes.
Yeah,
DEFCON's got very corporate over the last couple of years.
Total loss of credibility, right? Street cred, none, zero.
Yeah. Also, if you buy a Wi-Fi pineapple, don't turn it on at the con, because people have been known to set up like rogue Wi-Fi devices that would capture Wi-Fi pineapples when they get turned on for the first time, and they would like brick them. They would capture. You see them come on. They would use the default credentials, and then like they would go and run some sort of like wiping system on the Wi-Fi pineapples. So that's something I've seen that I've heard about in the past. I don't know if it's like truth or it's just like DEFCON lore, but something to keep in mind. This guy on the bottom left, I haven't seen him in a couple of years, but this guy's known as the Wi-Fi cactus. He's got like 20 Wi-Fi pineapples on his back with a giant car battery, and he was able to, I think, sniff like the whole spectrum, 2.4 to 5 gigahertz, all the different bands with that setup that he had there. And then he was bringing it all on like a Intel NUC, and then doing like data analysis and whatnot on it. So pretty cool little experiment. You'll see a bunch of crazy stuff like that.
Will I recognize him by his now curved spine?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a bit, but yeah, I think he's been doing talks. He's still around. Wi-Fi Cactus. You can find him, I think, on Twitter or whatnot.
He's recovering in the hospital from his spinal curvature.
Yeah, I think he was sponsored by Hack 5, and Hack 5, I think they hooked him up with all those pineapples and whatnot. So going around like your personal security and your just being aware. Everybody's like, oh, DEFCON, it's dangerous. You're gonna get hacked if you have your stuff on, turned on and whatnot. And that was more common back in the day when exploits were more, just things were like less or more exposed. Like I mentioned, it was only like 10, 15 years ago when TLS encryption wasn't a commonplace on the internet, and you could go and see credentials like in clear text over a network and whatnot. Things have changed a lot since then. I'm not saying that things couldn't happen, but it's good to be kind of aware, self-aware. There's a kind of the saying goes, no one's going to burn a 0 day on you, unless any of you guys, maybe you're a big CEO for a company or military or something like that, but it's just be smart. So what I recommend everybody to do is make sure your laptop and your phone are up to date before you get out there. It's the worst thing ever to do is update your laptop while at DEFCON, especially for folks doing CTFs. And they log into Kali Linux for the first time, and their Kali Linux is out of date, and they're trying to update it over the shit slow Wi-Fi and stuff like that. Make sure it's all updated before you get to DEFCON. Once you're at DEFCON, don't update it while you're there, especially if you're on a network that you don't trust.
The memories.
What?
The memories. Remember when that happened to us?
Oh yeah, it happens to everybody. I feel like it's definitely happened to me more than once. Ensure you have a VPN. Make sure you have a VPN set up on your devices. Wearlock and I and a few others usually recommend any VPNs like Molvad or Proton Mail, Proton VPN, stuff like that. Anything's gonna be better than nothing, but just make sure you have the profiles installed on your devices before you get there, and you have they work and all that kind of stuff. Disable the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on your device when you're not using it. If you are going to connect to the Wi-Fi, which I'll go over in a bit, then have it on. But when you're not connected to a device, try to have your devices turned off, your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi. And then this recommendation about wiping saved APs. So your device, if you have access points saved on your device, like your home or your Starbucks or whatever you have, your device is always broadcasting out, trying to connect to those previously connected networks. And anybody with like a Wi-Fi pineapple could spoof your network, especially if you connected to open networks like a Starbucks network in the past. And they can, possibly trick your device into connecting to their network. And if their network has internet, your data is going to go through their man-in-the-middle device, like a Pineapple, for example, and out to the web, and they can theoretically sniff your traffic. So,
wait, why would that
I'm
matter
sure.
if you use the VPN though?
Well, if you use a VPN, sure, you're good. But still, I mean, VPN or not, I try not to connect to, try to avoid connecting to people's, especially if it's a malicious, if it's a guy setting up a man in the middle, things, things to be concerned about. So, if you can do wire connections, hey, that's more power to you. But use a travel router to connect to the networks. Like I mentioned, I'll discuss more about that later. If you got a privacy screen on your device, it's a good time to get one if you don't have one. Use long secure passwords on all your devices, and extra credit, like I mentioned here, if you've set new passwords for use only during DEFCON and then changing them after DEFCON. But yeah, some of this might be too much for someone, maybe too little. So it just depends on your threat model. So something to keep in mind. Speaking of yeah.
So, okay, and you and I have talked about this in the past, and maybe it's overkill, but the idea of like, like you could just go down to like Best Buy, look for the sales, right? And get buy a crappy little, 14-inch portable laptop, with 4 gigs of RAM for like maybe $100 or something. I don't know, maybe you get something used, right? And you just have a separate rig that you can like plug into like you want to do CTFs or some hostile network or take it to DEFCON or whatever. And it's like if it ever got like chronically infected, like to the point where it became useless, you could just drop it in the trash. Do you abide by that at all? Do you care about that personally, there, Mr. Sinek?
I that's not within my threat model, but it could be for certain people, especially if you are planning on doing any sort of anything to do with malware, reverse engineering, or connecting to networks that are definitely sus. So I'll actually go this slide. I go over like the different networks that are at DEF CON. So like with that being said, prepare for disappointment. Cell signal and Wi-Fi typically always sucks ass at DEF CON. It's because just too many people are there using not just the cell towers, but the Wi-Fi as well as there. The Wi-Fi is typically sometimes better than the cell signal, and it depends on which part of the conference you're in and what time of day it is and things like that. It's like if you go to a music festival and you're trying to get like, get a text message out and it gets like it just hangs there for hours. It's because everything just gets backed up in the queue and the cell towers, and sometimes for these big events they might bring out like mobile cell towers to big events, from like AT&T or Verizon. So just something to keep in mind. So and that's kind of gets back to the point where if you want to get internet access, your best bet may be actually connecting to the DEF CON network. And I'll skip down to the bottom here. The DEF CON network, every year it's always been kind of the same setup. You have an open network and you have a secure network. The open network, you just connect to it. There's no password. It's one of the most hostile networks in the world. Outside of the internet itself, it's you're at a hacker convention, so if you really want to see how well your security is, there you go. The secure network, though, on the other hand, I believe they're using WPA3 now. It's certificate based, and they use client isolation, which actually I believe they're still doing it this year too. I think they've moved up to I forgot the hardware. I think they're using Aruba this year. I think that's what they've been using the last couple of years, if I remember correctly. And the client isolation, what it does is you can have thousands of people on the network, but they can't see each other. It's like a layer, almost like a thing of like a layer 3 switch in a way, where you have ways to like block others from seeing other people on the network. So so the network is relatively secure. And if you guys are interested about how the network runs there, every year at the last day at DEF CON, they do their closing ceremonies, and the NOC does a state of the NOC report. They talk about the technology they use, the threats that they saw, things like that. So things to keep in mind. There's a website called I think it's called defcon.reg.com. I could share a link to it as we get closer to the event. You can actually register yourself for the DEF CON Wi-Fi before even getting to DEF CON. It may not open until a few days before the conference starts, but from there you can download the certificates and you can get them loaded onto your system. And that's something to get familiarized beforehand, because if you're not used to loading up Wi-Fi certificates on your Linux laptop or your phone or things like that, something you're going to want to just to maybe play around with beforehand. I think they provide documentation for all the different operating systems, so that's a plus. But something to keep in mind. And that takes me back up here to this whole travel router idea. A lot of us use these GLI.net travel routers, and these are open. They're not open hardware, but they're open source based mobile router / firewall / access points, and they run a fork of OpenWRT. And you can flash all sorts of things to it. You can flash OpenWRT. You can use their normal firmware that's really good. There's a GUI and all that kind of stuff. Or you can flash the Cat5 Wi-Fi Pineapple firmware on there and turn these into Wi-Fi Pineapple. So that's kind of a cool thing. I played around with that a couple of years ago. So how these work, like I said, they're cheap. They're like 20, 30, 40 bucks. There's different variants of it. And what you do is you turn that on. You can run it off. Usually run it off like a little like a cell phone battery that you use to charge up your cell phone. and you can just like leave that in your backpack on at all times, and then you connect that device to the hostel network, like the hotel or the DEFCON network, and then you connect your devices to that network, and then so now you have that extra layer between you and that network with a firewall in front of you. So, and then you can run a VPN on that device as well too. So guaranteed, your traffic will be passing through VPN while you're connected to any network. So, and at that point, you honestly pretty safe to just connect to the open DEFCON network because at that point you're almost like on the World Wide Web at that point. So
I swear
that was a
I've
lot.
used like 3 of 'em.
Yeah, I know. I know we're like a big fan. I'm a big fan. Has anybody else used these before? Check them out. They're on Amazon. They're cheap. You might be able to even get them cheaper than $30.
They,
So
they even
something to
have
keep
a
in
form
mind.
fac- they even have a form factor of like it looks like a USB stick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I recommend too if you do pick up one, it might be a bad idea, not be a bad idea to spend a little bit more and get the one that's dual band that can connect to 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The cheaper ones usually won't, but the more expensive ones will, and that will just kind of give you a better speed and connection and deals with interference a little bit better. So something to keep in mind. And like I said, these are really only required if you're planning on connecting to a Wi-Fi network. If you're planning on using your cell phone's connection the whole time, then you can go away with not using one of these. But a lot of the workshops, a lot of the CTFs require you to be connected to some sort of Wi-Fi. A lot of the times, sometimes it's just connection to their website, but it's just something to keep in mind. Um, Hotel room safety. This is a big thing, especially after the whole Mandalay Bay shooter incident several years back. Things have changed a lot in Vegas. Security has been hyped up a lot. I know a lot of folks are boycotting Resorts World this year because last year the security was like crazy, just like busting into people's rooms, and a lot of people didn't really feel safe there, So, that's why I don't think that was on the room block this year for DEF CON, and a lot of folks are not staying there. So, lock up your stuff. Don't trust the hotel safes. And that's not even just. It's not really just because of the staff. It's because there has been a lot of break-ins from like, people thinking they're funny and they're hacking people's like uh door locks for their hotel rooms or their room keys and stuff like that. If you got a room key that's wireless or it's like one of those like tap RFID or NFC ones, it's a good idea to throw that into like one of those RFID blocking wallets or like a Faraday bag. Um, so um, and that goes with your credit cards and everything else. If you have valuables with you, take them if you can. Ideally, don't leave anything in the hotel. If you're driving there, leave them in your car. If you have things that are valuable, um, and then regardless or not, whether you put the "Do Not Disturb" sign on your door, after so many days of having that sign up, you might have the hotel staff come in your room regardless and start cleaning it or at least inspecting it. So it varies hotel by hotel, and you might want to look at the terms and service. But that's something to keep in mind. And like I mentioned earlier, if you do bring one of those travel routers, do connect them to the hotel Wi-Fi instead of connecting to them directly.
I got a suggestion.
Yeah.
So if you have a firearm, consider bringing it to Las Vegas. And there's a good, so there's an event called yeah, there you go, DEFCON Shoot, there you go. But yeah, they take you out to a gun range, and I mean, they've got flamethrowers and amazing stuff. But yeah, it's a good practice to learn how to fly with firearms because you literally have the right to do it. And there's a locksmith or a lockpicking guru dude named Deviant Olam, and he has lots of videos and blog articles about how to safely do it. And I did it, and I'm better for it now. And I think it's a really good thing because what you do is you get like a Pelican case. I think it's Pelican, right? Is the brand? Is that it?
Yeah.
Like yeah. So you get a Pelican hard case, and once you follow all the guidelines, you can do that. And even if you don't bring firearms or whatever, and you buy like what's the brand of lock? Is it Abus or Asa Abloy? I don't know. I don't remember which one it was, but there's some really good locks out there with like 3D cut keys, and they're super high security. And if you get a hard shell case and you have like, let's say like a cable to secure your laptop kind of thing, you can actually like use that to store your valuables in that hard shelled case. Put this non-TSA lock on there, which is suitable for flying with firearms, right? But even if you don't have firearms, you can lock it up with that. You have a high security, lock on there, and then you have a cable lock that you can like loop through something in the hotel room. That's pretty good, honestly, in my opinion. Like if you want to secure up your
Yeah.
crap, and if you
I
you
would say you
bring,
probably trust it more than a hotel safe.
yeah, well, that is one thing, is that if you do fly with firearms, what you do learn is that if you're going to bring it into a hotel, you should call the hotel ahead of time, tell them you want to do that, make sure they're cool with it, ask them what the procedure is, and then go in, follow that exact thing, go to the front desk, tell them, they'll bring out a security dude, and they've got a hotel safe, and then, put that firearm in their hotel safe, which usually they're perfectly fine with you just leaving it in there. And then when you want to actually go to the shoot, DC shoot thing, you just go to the security desk, tell them you want it, and they're cool with it. If you enter into the hotel, go to the security desk, give they'll walk you to their little secure cubby holes or whatever the hell they got, lock it up in there, and then you can leave it there. It's fine. And then when you need it, you just go there, get it. It's like the reverse process. And as long as the firearm goes straight to security and back out to security out the hotel, they just don't want it roaming around the hotel. So anyway, so
Yeah.
Pelican hard shell case. Cinec has, I think a really good version of that. Sometimes you can get a good deal. I got a great deal on mine. I've got like 2 of them. But there's a certain size which works really well for like carry on. You can maybe speak more to it, Senak, but that's my suggestion.
Yeah. So yeah, DefCon shoot. It's I wanted to make it this year, but I couldn't get the extra time off. But yeah, that happens on, was it the Wednesday before DefCon? Typically, a couple miles from the event itself. So and then yeah, it's put on all by a bunch of DefCon folks. So there's that. And we're going over like things to do at DefCon. There's the trainings, DefCon trainings that started I think 2 or 3 years ago. Those cost some money. They're not cheap. But they're similar to like the Black Hat trainings. So I think they might be available still if anybody's interested in those. Those are things that typically like, your company is going to pay for just because of the price. They're pretty expensive. The workshops, those are open today. I don't know if they're still available. I couldn't get the website to load for me, and I just said whatever. So I didn't bother trying it, but I know some people did. I know Tinky later mentioned you got a couple of them, so congrats. Um, there's the villages. We can go over the villages in a bit. The villages, well, kind of high level. Man, I forgot. I think I heard there was like 40 or 50 villages this year. It increases every single year. And for those that are new to DEF CON, villages are they're like, I don't know how to say it, like almost like mini cons within the con, or mini areas within the conference. And you have villages for like, you have like medical device village. You have the biohacking village, where the a lot of time they have a guy there usually with a giant syringe who can shove RFID chips in your hand. There's Packet Hacker Village, Red Team Village, Blue Team Village. There usually is a Crypto Village. There's a Aerospace Village, Car Hacking Village. Man, there's, I don't know, there's 20, 30, 40 others. So so yeah, these are like events within the event. They all usually have their own talks. They'll usually have sometimes they'll have merch. A lot of times they'll have their own CTFs. So like I've always been a big fan of the Blue Team Villages CTF. So if you're big into like defense and log analysis and stuff like that, that's like the Blue Team CTF has been a big thing. I recommend if you're interested in villages to check out the Defcon Reddit subreddit and the Defcon Discord. And then every village typically has their own Discord channel or server, and then there you can join those, and you can get information on like signups for CTFs and different events that are going on. A lot of times they'll have their own badges they'll sell as well. Almost all the villages have a badge that's related to them, or they'll have like a challenge coin, things like that. Also, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, is another good place to follow a lot of these villages. They'll do announcements and whatnot. A lot of times they'll have parties as well too, and that kind of goes into the whole party section. There's one of my favorite parties I go to every year. It's been kind of my tradition, like the last probably 5 years, is the Toxic Barbecue. And what it is it's a social event several miles away from the conference itself. It's at a park. And since it's Vegas, open drinking is allowed. So you would go to this park. There's a barbecue, free food, and typically there's plenty of alcohol too. Usually beers and things like that. Or you can bring your own. You can drink at this park, and they pretty much every year they throw a giant barbecue there, and it's you'll get a couple hundred people there. So it's a good place to go and mingle and meet new people. You'll meet folks from all over the world. We usually go there and we'll promote the 0404 party. And pass out flyers and whatnot for the party that we're doing. So there's also there's tons of parties. There's a website. I'll maybe share a link in a bit called I think it's called defconparties.com or something like that. And I could drop the link to that later, unless somebody else can do it now. And there's a list of like all the parties that are going on at DEF CON. It's insane. Let me actually see if I can pull that up. I'll pull it up in a bit. It's literally like 100 parties going on throughout that week, and a lot of them are throughout the day. A lot of them are at night, and things like that. So yeah, there's plenty to keep you going. There's official parties that are at the convention center itself. Everything from like VetCon, they'll put on a party. There's like GothCon that happens every year there, where they have a party. There's QueerCon. These are like cons within the con kind of thing. There's usually pool parties. So like last year, there's a pool party. I forgot who sponsored it. It might have been like Blue Team Village or one of those guys, and they brought out they had the dunk the Fed, which is like you throw like a beanbag at the target, and if you hit the target, the Fed falls into the water. So I think they brought that out a few years. That's kind of fun to see. And the parties are always free. I don't think you ever pay for a party. So some of them might be like invite only, but most of them, if you can get into vendor parties, those are usually pretty cool because a lot of times those might have open bar, free alcohol, things like that. Well, I mentioned the DEF CON shoot, but yeah, that's just a shooting event that goes on that Wednesday. There's a scavenger hunt, which is a big thing, and that's a ton of people participate in that. And then the vendor area, which is, I felt like it used to be bigger, but it's still pretty big. You got a lot of vendors out there selling swag, t-shirts, lockpick sets, tons of different things, lots of hacking devices. You have Hack5 that's there. If you want to, it's all usually cash. So nowadays it's not cash only. It used to be cash only. Most places will now take credit card. So if you want any like Wi-Fi pineapples or any of those like rubber duckies, bash bunnies, things like that, they'll have those. And you have the option to pay in cash, so if that's something you want to do, you can do that. A lot of times they'll sell badges from previous years, from previous villages, things like that. Hacker Warehouse is always there. and they have like the best supply of different hacking equipment and gear and stuff like that. I wish I should have showed more pictures of that, but and those who haven't made it to the Las Vegas Convention Center, it's massive, and the floor area outside of like where the talks are at, the floor is massive. I think it's grown this year from last year, so it's bigger. There's going to be more villages, more talks, more everything. So it's like I said, good shoes. Bring good shoes. It's very important. Your feet are gonna hurt. Usually by like day 2, your feet are gonna be killing you. And one thing, the mistake don't try not to make is bringing too much shit with you on your back. Because or at least bring some Tylenol pop because your back's gonna start killing you if you laptops and batteries and cables and all this swag and all the stuff that you buy, all in your back. So if you're hopefully staying in a hotel that's kind of close to the conference, you can drop your shit off. Otherwise, you'll have to carry it the whole time. So just a heads up. I know. I think we're almost done. So thanks for bearing with us. Null 44 Defcon party. These are some photos from previous years, and we got Magus printing up new badges that are going to be there. We're going to be handing out. I forgot how many we have, but those are like a sneak peek of the badges for Null 404. So it's going to be a Saturday evening. I think it's from 6 to 10 p.m. We'll have free alcohol. We'll have free pizza. We had like last year we had tons of extra. So I think we had about 100 people last year. We're hoping for like 120, 150. We're gonna be in the exact same style penthouse that we were last year. This is what we kind of an image of it. So it's pretty big. We can like easily fit 100 people in there. And I think throughout the night, if we can get more people, the better. I think I got a video after this. I'll have to show you guys. We are going to be doing Kevin and I and a few others have been working on this. Find the hacker. It's like we call it like Hacker Among Us. It's like a mix between like a murder mystery meets Among Us, gameplay, where you try to find the hacker, and it's like interacting with Discord. There'll be some like physical stuff. I'm bringing out a safe, so whoever can like crack the safe and get in the safe, there'll be a clue in there. There'll be a satellite dish that you have to connect to a satellite and get some transmissions to find clues. And whoever wins, there will be like a swag giveaway. We'll give away like a free T-shirt, whatnot. And if anybody's got projects and stuff like that they want to talk about at the events, we haven't really talked about how we're going to do that. But if anybody's interested in like showing off a project you've been working on or wanting to do a talk beforehand, let us know, and we'll probably do that. So we'll kind of see. I know we're going to have Pirate Chain's going to be out there, and then we have Arclight 6, which is our main sponsor. They'll be doing like maybe doing a talk. So just something to keep in mind. Oh yeah, this is the video. This is pretty funny. This is the conga line that started last year. So lots of fun. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. This like the last thing I had was don't use any random charging kiosks or charger cables that aren't yours. If you guys aren't familiar, there's a thing called the OMG cable, which is like it's pretty much like a rubber ducky built into a USB phone charger cable. So like they look exactly like USB-C or Lightning cable. And you plug it in, and it could potentially like pwn your device. So try to keep aware of that. RFID blocking wallets are always a good thing to have. Faraday bags. Where like mentioned, if you're into that, you can get a throwaway laptop. If you feel like you've been compromised, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just be smart. Don't make any dumb decisions. And if you do make dumb decisions, at least make sure you're having fun while you're doing it. I'd say sign up for workshops, but I'm sure by now they're probably all sold out. So if you can get in there, you can. Yeah, and I can share out this deck with you guys if anyone's interested. There's a Defcon documentary that's on YouTube. You can check out. It's from several years old, but it gives you kind of some context of Defcon. If you've never been before, tickets are still for sale, and they are going up. So if you don't want to wait, and like typically the longer line for tickets, and you want to be guaranteed a badge, then you can do the pre-registration, pre-sale thing. If you don't care about that and you want to pay cash only, then it will be technically cheaper at the conference. And then yeah, and that's pretty much everything I got. I'm gonna real quick. I want to share the DEFCON parties website with you guys because it's pretty insane. Let's see. I can get my damn computer to show. Yeah, let's see. So I'm gonna reshare my screen out here. So I think this is the official site. So yeah, defconparties.com. This is these are all the parties that are going on. And I think some of these parties might be overlapped from Black Hat, but this list will grow. I don't know why they don't have the oh yeah, we've talked about adding our party. I don't know if we're gonna add the 044 party to this list. Something that Kevin and I are gonna talk about. We haven't announced the location, stuff like that. So, but yeah, yeah. So check these out. Yeah, some of these might have pre-reg like signups right here. So if you want to sign up and make sure you get yourself like locked in for the party, then definitely do that. You can see these are like a lot of these so far are on the 6th, which is actually the day before DEFCON starts. This is more than likely these are Black Hat parties. So you will see this list grow as we get closer to DEFCON because right now there's not many DEFCON parties listed on here yet. So this will definitely grow. So and this is the main source for finding the parties. So but there are going to be other like low key parties. If you're part of our San Diego DEFCON meetup group, there is I think 1 or 2 parties going on for that. I think that might be Saturday as well. So there is lots of parties, lots of fun. All right, I'll talk too much. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to bring up? Taking it easy on me.
Yeah, no, I had one for you.